The Haelor ambush. The Haelor Empire was known for its arrogance. For centuries, they ruled vast parts of the galaxy, crushing any species that dared to challenge their dominance. To them, humans were no more than a minor annoyance, a young species barely worthy of their attention. But today, that perception would cost them dearly. In a quiet sector of unclaimed space, a Haelor fleet patrolled confidently. Their sleek, silver warships moved like shadows through the darkness, scanning for anything that might be of interest. Suddenly, their long-range sensors picked up something unusual, a lone human warship, seemingly stranded and vulnerable. The Haelor commander, Zarvik, grinned. A simple target, he thought. Destroying it would send a message. Humans should stay in their place. Zarvik stood on the bridge of the Haelor flagship, Dominion's blade, watching the holographic display of the human vessel. Its design was simple, nothing like the intricate Haelor ships. Zarvik sneered. "Primitive," he muttered. He gave the order. "Prepare weapons. No warnings. Destroy it." As the Haelor fleet closed in, the human warship remained still, seemingly unaware of the danger. The crew on Zarvik's ship laughed, anticipating an easy victory. But just as they were about to fire, something unexpected happened. The human ship's engines roared to life, and its shields activated with a golden shimmer. On the bridge of the human warship, the Resolute, Captain Mara Grant calmly gave orders. Her crew worked with precision, their movements synchronized like clockwork. "Enemy ships detected," said the tactical officer. "They're locking weapons on us." Mara's voice was steady. "Shields up. Weapons online. Let them make the first move." The Haelor fleet opened fire, their energy cannons blazing. Beams of blue light shot toward the Resolute, but to the Haelor's surprise, the human ship's shields absorbed the attacks effortlessly. Zarvik's grin faded as confusion spread across his bridge. "What is this?" he barked. "Increase power to the weapons." On the Resolute, Mara watched the enemy's frustration with quiet satisfaction. "Return fire," she commanded. Her ship's cannons lit up, unleashing a barrage of precise, calculated shots. The first Haelor ship took a direct hit to its engines, exploding in a brilliant flash. The second ship's shields failed under the concentrated assault, forcing it to retreat. Zarvik's confidence turned to anger. Impossible. How can a single human ship do this? His officers scrambled for answers, their screens flashing red with alerts. The human ship wasn't just fighting back. It was outmaneuvering them, predicting their moves before they even made them. Inside the Resolute, the tension was palpable, but the crew remained focused. 2 enemy ships disabled, the tactical officer reported. 4 more closing in. Mara's gaze didn't waver. "Prepare the EMP pulse," she said. The bridge fell silent as the crew executed the command. Within seconds, the Resolute released a burst of electromagnetic energy, disrupting the systems of the approaching Haelor ships. One by one, their weapons and engines failed, leaving them adrift. Zarvik slammed his fist against the console. "How is this possible?" he shouted. "Humans are not supposed to have this kind of technology." On the Resolute, Mara allowed herself a small smile. "They underestimated us," she thought. Her ship wasn't just any human warship. It was the product of years of secret development, equipped with cutting-edge technology, and a crew trained for the unexpected. The Resolute was a force the galaxy had never seen. As the Haelor fleet struggled to recover, Zarvik realized they were outmatched. "Fall back," he ordered. "Regroup and call for reinforcements." His pride was wounded, but he wasn't ready to admit defeat. Not yet. The Resolute's crew watched as the Haelor ships began to retreat. "Should we pursue them, Captain?" asked the tactical officer. Mara shook her head. "No, let them run. They'll think twice before attacking us again." But deep down, she knew this was just the beginning. The Haelors wouldn't let this humiliation go unanswered. As the Resolute moved away from the battlefield, Its crew couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They had faced one of the galaxy's most feared empires and emerged victorious. But their celebration was brief. On the edge of the galaxy, the Haelor Empire was already preparing its next move, a retaliation that would test humanity's resilience like never before. Unveiling the human warship, the Haelor Empire was reeling from its unexpected defeat. For centuries, they had prided themselves on their unchallenged dominance, but now, whispers of the human warship, the Resolute, spread like wildfire across their fleet. It wasn't just a defeat, it was an embarrassment. Commander Zarvek's retreat had left his reputation in ruins, but worse than that, it had exposed a dangerous truth. Humanity was far stronger than the Haelors had ever imagined. On the flagship Dominion's blade, Zarvek stood in the War Council chamber, facing the holographic forms of his superiors. The shimmering projections of Haelor admirals glared down at him. Their golden eyes, a hallmark of their species, burned with accusation. You had 6 warships, one of them hissed, and you were defeated by one human vessel. Zarvek straightened, forcing confidence into his voice. It was not an ordinary ship. Their technology, it's beyond anything we expected. Excuses. Another admiral snapped. The humans are a fledgling race. They are no match for us. Then explain this. Zarvek shot back, pulling up a recording of the battle. The room fell silent as they watched the Resolute in action, absorbing their most powerful attacks, maneuvering with impossible precision, and striking with uncanny accuracy. When the recording ended, no one spoke for a long moment. Finally, the lead admiral leaned forward. This warship must be investigated. Find out how they built it, and destroy it before word of this spreads. On board the Resolute, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Captain Mara Grant walked the bridge, her sharp eyes scanning the crew. Every station buzzed with activity, but there was no room for mistakes. The Haelor fleet might be regrouping, but they wouldn't stay quiet for long. Captain, the science officer called. We've decrypted part of the Haelor transmissions from the battle. Mara stepped closer. What did you find? The officer hesitated, clearly disturbed by what he had uncovered. They weren't just patrolling this sector, they were hunting us specifically. They've been tracking the Resolute for weeks. Mara frowned. Why? This is a standard mission. They couldn't have known we'd be here. The officer shook his head. It's not about us, Captain. It's about what we're carrying. For a moment, the room seemed to freeze. Everyone knew the Resolute was no ordinary warship, but few of them understood just how special it truly was. Mara's voice was quiet but firm. Explain. The science officer pulled up a holographic display. It showed a glowing artifact, pulsing with faint blue light. This, he said, is the key. The Haelors believe we're transporting an ancient weapon, something powerful enough to tip the balance of power in the galaxy. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The artifact had been recovered years ago from the ruins of a long-dead civilization. No one knew exactly what it was, but its potential had terrified the human leaders enough to keep it hidden. Now it seemed the secret was out. Mara straightened, her mind racing. If the Haelors think we have a weapon like that, they'll never stop coming after us. The tactical officer chimed in, his voice grim. Their transmissions also mentioned reinforcements, a whole fleet, heading this way. Meanwhile, on the edge of the Haelor Empire, Zarvek oversaw the assembly of his new fleet. Dozens of warships gathered in a massive formation, their dark hulls gleaming under the light of a distant star. Zarvek's second-in-command approached him. The fleet is ready, Commander. But I must ask, what if the humans defeat us again? Zarvek's golden eyes narrowed. They won't. This time, we're prepared. We'll crush their ship and take their secrets. The galaxy must know that no one defies the Haelor Empire. But Zarvek wasn't telling the full truth. He had seen something during the battle that haunted him. The human warship wasn't just advanced. It was smarter, faster, and more adaptable than anything he had ever faced. If they underestimated the humans again, it could mean the end of the Haelor Empire itself. Back on the Resolute, Mara addressed her crew. The Haelors are coming for us. They think we're hiding a weapon, but what they don't realize is that we are the weapon. This ship, this crew, we're their worst nightmare. The crew erupted in cheers, their resolve hardening. But deep down, Mara knew the odds were against them. The Haelors wouldn't make the same mistake twice. If they wanted to survive, they would have to push the Resolute, and themselves, beyond their limits. As the human warship prepared for the coming storm, one question lingered in everyone's mind. What would happen if the artifact's true power was unleashed? The Haelor counterattack. The Haelor fleet arrived like a storm. 50 warships emerged from hyperspace, their sharp, angular designs reflecting the cold precision of the Haelor Empire. Each ship was armed with advanced cloaking devices, stealth technology that rendered them invisible to most scanners. At their head was the Dominion's blade, with Commander Zarvek standing proudly on its bridge. This time, he would not leave the battlefield in shame. On the Resolute, the human crew detected the arrival of the Haelor reinforcements. The tactical officer's voice broke the tense silence on the bridge. Multiple contacts just dropped out of hyperspace. 50 ships, maybe more. The crew exchanged worried glances, but Captain Mara Grant remained calm. She leaned over the holographic display, assessing the situation. The Haelors were advancing in a wide formation, their positions flickering on and off the sensors. They're using cloaking devices, the science officer said. We won't be able to track them until it's too late. Mara frowned. The Haelors were learning. Their overconfidence was gone, replaced by careful strategy. She turned to her crew. Activate the RIFT system. The room grew silent. The RIFT system, Reactive Interference Field Technology, was an experimental human innovation designed to disrupt cloaking devices. It had never been tested in combat. "Ma'am," the tactical officer said cautiously, "if this doesn't work." Mara interrupted. "If it doesn't work, we won't survive anyway. Do it." The crew moved quickly, their fingers flying over controls. Outside the ship, a faint ripple spread through space as the RIFT system came online. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the cloaked Haelor ships began to shimmer into visibility, like shadows emerging from the darkness. "There they are," the tactical officer exclaimed. On the Dominion's blade, Zarvek's second-in-command shouted in alarm. "Commander, they've exposed our fleet." Zarvek's eyes narrowed as he studied the human warship on his display. "Impressive," he muttered. "But it won't save them. All ships, engage." The Haelor fleet unleashed a devastating volley of firepower. Beams of energy streaked through space, converging on the Resolute. The human warship's shields flared under the onslaught, but they held firm. For now. Mara barked out orders. Evasive maneuvers. Target their lead ships and fire at will. The Resolute twisted and turned, dodging some of the incoming fire while returning precision strikes. Its advanced targeting systems locked onto the Haelor ships, exploiting weaknesses in their formations. One Haelor destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash, then another. But the sheer number of enemy ships was overwhelming. The Resolute's shields began to falter under the relentless attack. Inside the ship, alarms blared, and sparks flew from damaged consoles. The engineering team worked frantically to keep the ship operational. "We can't keep this up," the tactical officer shouted. "They're surrounding us." Mara clenched her fists. The Haelors were adapting faster than she'd anticipated. They weren't just attacking. They were testing her ship, probing for vulnerabilities. If they found one, it would be over. Then, an idea struck her. "Activate the Maelstrom Protocol," she ordered. The crew froze. The Maelstrom Protocol was a desperate measure, a risky maneuver that involved overloading the ship's experimental drive to create a temporary gravity well. It could disorient the enemy fleet and give the Resolute a chance to escape or counterattack. But it came with a cost. The ship itself could be torn apart in the process. "Captain," the science officer said hesitantly, There's a high probability this will. I know the risks, Mara said firmly. Do it. The crew obeyed, tension thick in the air. Deep within the ship, the experimental drive hummed to life, its energy levels spiking dangerously. Outside, the space around the Resolute began to warp and twist. The Haelor ships closest to the warship suddenly veered off course, their systems overwhelmed by the gravitational distortion. Zarvik watched in shock as several of his ships collided, their hulls crumpling under the force. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Pull back. Regroup." But the Resolute wasn't done. As the Maelstrom protocol reached its peak, the human ship unleashed a barrage of missiles, each one guided with pinpoint accuracy. The Haelor fleet suffered devastating losses, their formation shattered. On the Resolute, the engineering officer called out, "Drive stability at critical levels. We can't maintain this much longer." Mara made a quick decision. "Shut it down and prepare to jump to hyperspace. We've made our point." The Maelstrom field collapsed, and the Resolute's engines roared as the ship prepared to escape. Zarvik, furious but helpless, watched as the human warship vanished into hyperspace, leaving a trail of wreckage in its wake. In the aftermath, Zarvik stood on the ruined bridge of the Dominion's blade, his pride in tatters. He had underestimated the humans yet again. But this time, he wasn't just angry, he was afraid. On board the Resolute, Mara sat in her quarters, reviewing the damage reports. The ship had survived, but barely. The crew had fought bravely, but the Haelors would return, stronger and more determined than ever. Mara's thoughts turned to the artifact hidden deep within the ship. It was the reason the Haelors had attacked, the reason so many lives had been lost. She didn't know what it was or what it could do, but one thing was clear. Humanity was now at the center of a war it hadn't asked for, and the galaxy was watching. Secrets of the Haelor Empire. In the aftermath of the battle, the Resolute drifted quietly through a desolate region of space. Repairs were underway, but the tension aboard the ship remained palpable. The crew knew they had won a skirmish, but the war was far from over. Captain Mara Grant sat in the war room, flanked by her senior officers. A holographic display hovered over the table, showing the artifact that had drawn the Haelor Empire's attention. Its surface glowed faintly with blue light, pulsating like a heartbeat. It was ancient, mysterious, and undeniably powerful. The science officer, Dr. Elena Voss, leaned forward, her expression grim. "Captain, I've analyzed the artifact further. It's not just some alien relic. It's alive, in a way." Mara's brow furrowed. "Alive? Explain." Elena gestured to the hologram. "Its energy signature isn't static. It's evolving, adapting. And it's not random. It's responding to us. To the ship, to the crew." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The artifact wasn't just a weapon. It was something far more complex, something that might hold the key to unlocking technologies beyond human comprehension. But it also made them a target. "What do the Haelors know about this?" Mara asked. Elena hesitated before responding. "We intercepted more of their transmissions. They call it the Core of Eternity. According to their records, it was created by a civilization older than anything we've encountered. The Haelors believe it has the power to rewrite the fabric of reality itself." The tactical officer, Lieutenant Blake, scoffed. "Rewrite reality? That sounds like superstition." Elena shot him a sharp look. "It's not. The energy readings from the artifact are unlike anything we've ever seen. If the Haelors get their hands on it—" "They won't," Mara interrupted firmly. "Not as long as we're breathing." Meanwhile, deep within the Haelor Empire, Commander Zarvik knelt before the Imperial Council. The chamber was massive, its walls adorned with glowing symbols that pulsed in rhythm with the Empire's central power core. The council members, cloaked in dark robes, loomed over him from their elevated seats. "You have failed us twice, Zarvik," the lead counselor said, his voice like a blade cutting through the air. The human warship has humiliated our fleet and escaped with the core of eternity. Zarvik gritted his teeth, his pride shattered, but his determination unbroken. The humans are resourceful, but they are not invincible. Grant me one more chance, and I will deliver the core to you. The counselor's glowing eyes narrowed. Do not mistake our patience for forgiveness. You will not act alone this time. We are dispatching our greatest asset. From the shadows stepped a figure clad in black armor, their face obscured by a smooth, reflective mask. The room seemed to grow colder as they moved forward. The Shadowborn, Zarvik whispered, his voice tinged with both fear and reverence. The Shadowborn were the Haelor Empire's elite assassins, masters of stealth and destruction. If they were involved, the mission was no longer about reclaiming the artifact. It was about annihilation. Back on the Resolute, Mara and her crew prepared for the inevitable retaliation. But the tension grew heavier when a Haelor distress signal was detected nearby. The crew debated their next move. It could be a trap, Blake warned. Or it could be an opportunity, Mara countered. If we can capture one of their officers, we might learn more about why they're after the artifact. Reluctantly, the crew followed her lead, setting a course for the signal. When they arrived, they found a damaged Haelor frigate, its hull scorched and venting plasma. Boarding parties were assembled, and Mara led the mission herself. Inside the Haelor ship, the halls were eerily quiet. The air smelled of burnt metal, and flickering lights cast long, shifting shadows. Mara's team moved cautiously, weapons at the ready. They found survivors, barely. One of them, a high-ranking officer, was pinned under a collapsed beam. Mara knelt beside him. "Tell me what the Haelors know about the artifact," she demanded. The officer's golden eyes glared at her, filled with defiance. "You don't understand what you're playing with," he rasped. "The core isn't just a weapon. It's a beacon, a signal to something far worse than us." Mara's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" The officer coughed, blood dripping from his lips. "We tried to control it, but it was never meant for us. Or for you. The ones who made it. They're coming." Before Mara could press him further, the officer's body convulsed and went still. His last words echoed in her mind. "They're coming." Back on the bridge of the Resolute, Mara shared the revelation with her crew. The artifact wasn't just a tool of unimaginable power, it was a warning. If what the Haelor officer said was true, they weren't just fighting for their survival against the Empire. They were standing on the brink of awakening a threat that could destroy the entire galaxy. And somewhere in the shadows of space, the Haelor fleet was regrouping, their Shadowborn assassin preparing to strike. The turning point. The stars around the Resolute shimmered as the warship drifted through an isolated nebula, cloaked from prying eyes. Repairs were underway, but the haunting words of the dying Haelor officer lingered in Captain Mara Grant's mind. "They're coming." The bridge was tense. The crew had faced the Haelors before, but this felt different. The stakes had grown beyond a simple battle for survival. Now, the entire galaxy might be at risk. Mara stood at the tactical table, reviewing the ship's latest sensor data. "Elena," she said, addressing the science officer, "have you made any progress analyzing the artifact?" Dr. Elena Voss hesitated before responding. "Yes, but the results are unsettling. The artifact isn't just emitting energy, it's broadcasting. It's sending out a signal, Captain, across dimensions." The room fell silent. "What kind of signal?" Mara asked. Elena's voice was grim. "It's a kind of beacon. A call to something. I can't say what exactly, but it's ancient and far more advanced than either us or the Haelors. If this signal keeps broadcasting, we might be inviting something into our galaxy that we're not ready for." The Shadowborn strikes. Unbeknownst to the Resolute's crew, they were no longer alone. The Shadowborn assassin, dispatched by the Haelor Empire, had tracked them through the nebula. From aboard her stealth ship, she observed the human warship with a mix of curiosity and disdain. The Shadowborn were bred for missions like this, precise, ruthless, and untraceable. Inside her vessel, the assassin activated a series of drones, releasing them into the nebula. These drones, coated in reflective materials, became nearly invisible as they approached the Resolute. Their purpose wasn't to attack, but to probe, scanning the warship for weaknesses and creating a detailed map for the impending strike. The trap is set. Back on the Resolute, the crew picked up faint anomalies on their scanners. Mara frowned as she studied the readings. It's too faint for debris or natural interference. Tactical. What's your analysis? Blake, the tactical officer, shook his head. Could be cloaked probes. If the Haelors are watching us, they're getting ready for something big. Mara nodded. Bring the ship to full alert. If they're planning an ambush, we won't make it easy for them. The crew sprang into action, weapons systems primed and shields fortified. But the Shadowborn assassin had already anticipated this. From her stealth ship, she sent a pulse command to the drones. They emitted a low-frequency signal, interfering with the Resolute's sensors and creating the illusion of a larger fleet surrounding them. Captain, we've got multiple contacts. Blake called out. Looks like an entire Haelor battle group. Mara clenched her fists. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The Shadowborn boards the Resolute. As the Resolute prepared to engage the Phantom Fleet, the Shadowborn used the distraction to infiltrate the ship. Her stealth pod latched onto the warship's hull, and within moments, she breached an access port. Moving silently, she disabled cameras and evaded patrols with ease. Her target was clear, the artifact. Deep in the ship, Alina was running final diagnostics on the artifact when the room's lights flickered. She glanced at her assistant, who was monitoring the energy levels. What's going on? Before the assistant could respond, the Shadowborn struck. In a blur of motion, she incapacitated the assistant and advanced toward Alina. Her black armor absorbed the light, making her appear like a living shadow. Alina backed away, her hands trembling. You don't know what you're dealing with. The artifact isn't. The Shadowborn raised a sleek, blade-like weapon, its edge glowing faintly. I know exactly what I'm dealing with, she said in a cold, mechanical voice. Your species doesn't deserve it. Before she could strike, the door to the chamber burst open. Mara and a security team charged in, weapons drawn. Step away from my crew, Mara shouted. The Shadowborn turned slowly, her reflective mask giving no indication of her thoughts. In a flash, she hurled a small device at the security team. It detonated with a burst of electromagnetic energy, disabling their weapons and causing the lights to flicker wildly. Mara lunged forward, engaging the Shadowborn in hand-to-hand combat. The assassin's movements were impossibly fast, her strikes precise and calculated. But Mara fought back with a ferocity that surprised even the Shadowborn. Years of training and raw determination gave her the edge she needed. The artifact reacts. As the fight raged on, the artifact began to glow brighter, its pulsating light growing erratic. Alina shouted from her workstation, "The artifact is reacting to the energy fluctuations. Captain, you need to stop." But it was too late. The artifact released a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. In the aftermath, the Shadowborn vanished, retreating back to her stealth pod. The artifact's energy levels continued to rise, threatening to destabilize the ship. Alina, can we contain it? Mara demanded. I don't know. Alina replied, frantically working the controls. Whatever it's doing, it's far beyond our understanding. If we don't shut it down, it could rip a hole in space-time. Mara made a split-second decision. Redirect all available power to containment. We can't let this thing destroy us, or worse. The turning point. As the crew worked desperately to stabilize the artifact, Mara realized the truth. This wasn't just a battle for survival. The artifact was the key to something much larger, and its true purpose was only beginning to reveal itself. The Haelors wanted it because they feared what it could do, but now Mara wondered if even the Haelors understood the danger. The ship stabilized, but the damage was done. The Shadowborn had escaped, and the Haelors now knew the artifact was far more dangerous than they'd anticipated. In her quarters, Mara reviewed the footage of the Shadowborn's infiltration. She had faced many enemies before, but none like this. Her mind turned back to the dying Haelor officer's words. They're coming. The galaxy wasn't ready for what was about to unfold, and neither was humanity. Humanity's resolve. The Resolute hung silently in the shadow of a massive asteroid field, its hull bearing the scars of recent battles. Repairs were progressing, but the mood on board was grim. The Shadowborn assassin's infiltration had left more than just physical damage. It had shaken the crew's confidence. For the first time, they truly understood the scale of what they were up against. In the war room, Captain Mara Grant stood before her senior officers, the artifact's pulsing hologram hovering in the air. Its faint, rhythmic glow seemed almost alive, a silent reminder of the chaos it had unleashed. "We don't have the luxury of time," Mara began, her voice steady but resolute. "The Haelors are regrouping. The Shadowborn will come for us again. And now we know the artifact is sending out a signal. Whatever it's calling, it's getting closer." Uncovering the artifact's secret, Dr. Elena Voss stepped forward, her face drawn from sleepless nights spent studying the artifact. "Captain, I believe I've identified part of its purpose," she said, pointing to the hologram. "The artifact contains star maps, but they're incomplete. They seem to depict something beyond our galaxy." Mara frowned. "Beyond? What does that mean?" Elena hesitated. "It means the civilization that created this artifact wasn't native to our galaxy. They were interdimensional, or at least capable of moving between galaxies. The signal it's broadcasting could be a distress call, or worse, an invitation." The room fell silent. Lieutenant Blake broke the tension with a question that was on everyone's mind. "If this thing is so dangerous, why don't we just destroy it?" Elena's expression darkened. "We can't. The energy within it is self-sustaining. If we tried to destroy it, the resulting explosion could destabilize the entire sector of space." Blake sighed. "Great. So we're stuck with an indestructible beacon for intergalactic doom. A plan of last resort." Mara turned to the tactical display, her mind racing. "If we can't destroy it, we need to control it. We'll lure the Haelors into a confrontation and force them to back down." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. A confrontation. "Captain, their fleet outnumbers and outguns us," Blake said. "How are we supposed to win?" Mara's voice hardened. "By showing them what humanity is capable of. If the Haelors think they can just take this artifact, they're wrong. They've underestimated us at every turn, and we'll use that against them." The crew nodded, their resolve returning. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that humanity had a place in the galaxy, even against impossible odds. The final warning. As the crew prepared for battle, the artifact's glow intensified. Elena called Mara to the science lab, where the device was now emitting a low hum that seemed to resonate through the ship. "Captain, the artifact's signal has changed," Elena said, her voice trembling. "It's no longer broadcasting randomly. It's responding to something. I've triangulated the source. Whatever it is, it's moving toward us." Mara studied the readings, her stomach tightening. "How long until it arrives?" Elena hesitated. "Days. Maybe less." The Haelor fleet arrives. The Resolute emerged from the asteroid field, its systems primed for battle. Before them stretched the Haelor fleet, a massive armada of over 50 warships, led by the Dominion's Blade. On its bridge, Commander Zarvek stood with the Shadowborn assassin at his side, their confidence bolstered by numbers. Zarvek opened a channel, his golden eyes glaring through the display. "Humans, you've played your part well. But this ends now. Surrender the artifact, and I may spare your lives." Mara stood tall, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You've made a habit of underestimating us, Zarvek. Let's see how that works out for you." With that, The connection was cut, and the battle began. The fight for humanity. The Haelor fleet advanced, their ships firing a wall of energy that lit up the void. The Resolute weaved through the onslaught, its advanced systems predicting and countering the enemy's every move. But even with its cutting-edge technology, the sheer number of Haelor ships was overwhelming. Mara barked out orders. Deploy decoys and activate the Maelstrom protocol. We need to thin their ranks. As the Maelstrom field distorted space around the Haelor ships, several collided, their formations breaking apart. But the Shadowborn had anticipated this. On the Dominion's blade, she directed a strike team to infiltrate the Resolute, aiming to take the artifact by force. The artifact awakens. Inside the Resolute, the artifact's hum grew louder, its light pulsating in sync with the battle. Elena monitored its energy levels, her face pale. Captain, the artifact is responding to the conflict. Its power is spiking. Before Mara could respond, the ship shuddered as the Shadowborn strike team breached the hull. Alarms blared, and security teams scrambled to intercept the intruders. Mara led the defense personally, determined to protect her crew and the artifact. The Shadowborn assassin confronted her again, their duel echoing through the corridors of the ship. This time, Mara was ready, using the confined space to her advantage. But as they fought, the artifact unleashed a sudden burst of energy, sending both combatants to the ground. In that moment, a deep, resonating voice echoed through the ship, not from the artifact, but from somewhere far beyond. We are coming. The turning point. The Haelor fleet faltered as their systems were disrupted by the artifact's energy. Zarvik watched in horror as his ships began to lose power, their weapons and engines failing. On the Resolute, the crew stared at their captain, waiting for orders. Mara rose to her feet, blood dripping from a cut on her forehead. We've come too far to stop now. Redirect the artifact's energy toward the Haelor fleet. If they want a demonstration, let's give them one. The ship's systems hummed as the artifact channeled its power, releasing a blinding beam of energy that tore through the Haelor armada. The remaining ships scattered, their morale shattered. As the battlefield fell silent, Mara looked at her exhausted crew. This isn't over, she said. We've won the battle, but the real war is just beginning. The Empire's downfall. The remnants of the Haelor fleet limped away, their once proud armada reduced to fractured ships and terrified whispers. For the first time in centuries, the Haelor Empire had been brought to its knees, not by a massive galactic power, but by a single human warship. The galaxy would remember this moment. But for Captain Mara Grant and her crew aboard the Resolute, the fight was far from over. The warning from beyond. As the Resolute drifted through the aftermath of the battle, the artifact pulsed with an ominous rhythm. Dr. Elena Voss analyzed its latest activity with growing alarm. The energy signatures had stabilized, but the strange, otherworldly voice they had heard during the battle haunted her. It's more than a warning, Elena said to Mara in the war room. The artifact isn't just calling something, it's preparing the way for it. Whatever's coming, it's already close. Mara's gaze hardened. We've faced the Haelors and won. Whatever this new threat is, we'll find a way to stop it. Elena shook her head. This isn't a warship, Captain. This is a key, and we've just unlocked the door. The Haelor Empire fractures. Back in the Haelor capital, chaos erupted. News of Commander Zarvik's defeat spread like wildfire, shaking the foundations of the Empire. The Imperial Council convened an emergency session, their once united front crumbling under the weight of their humiliation. The humans must be eliminated, one counselor snarled, slamming a fist on the table. Fool, another shot back. We've lost half our fleet. What makes you think we can fight them now? Amidst the chaos, a single voice silenced the room. The Shadowborn assassin stepped forward, her reflective mask catching the light. The artifact is the key to our survival, she said, her voice cold and mechanical. The humans have demonstrated their strength, but they don't understand the artifact's true purpose. If we act now, we can still take it. The counselors hesitated, their fear of the Shadowborn outweighing their dissent. "What do you propose?" one of them asked. "We let the humans believe they've won," the Shadowborn said. "While they celebrate, we gather our forces. When the time is right, we strike, quickly and decisively. The artifact will belong to the Haelor Empire." The message of unity. On board the Resolute, Mara addressed her crew. The ship's repairs were nearly complete, but morale was low. Many of them had seen friends and comrades lost in the battle, and the looming threat of the artifact weighed heavily on their minds. Standing before them, Mara spoke with conviction. "We didn't ask for this fight. The Haelors attacked us, thinking we were weak. But we proved them wrong. We showed them what humanity is capable of. And now we face a new challenge, a threat greater than any of us can imagine. But we won't face it alone." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We are the Resolute. We don't just survive. We endure. We fight. And when the galaxy looks to us, they'll see what it means to stand together." The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted. But Mara knew their greatest test still lay ahead. The Haelor Empire's final move. As the Resolute approached human-controlled space, the Haelors made their final gambit. A small strike force, led by the Shadowborn herself, intercepted the warship. This time, their approach was different, not brute force, but subtle infiltration. The Shadowborn's stealth ship slipped past the Resolute's defenses, landing undetected on the hull. Using a newly developed cloaking device, she and her team infiltrated the ship, heading straight for the artifact. On the bridge, alarms blared. "Captain, we've got an intruder alert," Blake shouted. "They're heading for the artifact chamber." Mara's jaw tightened. "Seal off the lower decks. Security teams, engage on site. The battle for the artifact." In the artifact chamber, Dr. Elena Voss stood her ground, armed with nothing more than a sidearm. The Shadowborn entered silently, her black armor blending with the shadows. "Step aside," the assassin said, her voice cold. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Elena aimed her weapon but didn't fire. "Neither do you," she replied. "The artifact isn't just dangerous, it's alive. If you try to take it, you'll unleash something none of us can stop." The Shadowborn didn't hesitate. In a blur of motion, she disarmed Elena and approached the artifact. But as she reached out to touch it, the artifact reacted violently. A blinding pulse of energy knocked everyone in the room to the ground, and the chamber filled with an otherworldly hum. The voice returned, louder this time, echoing in their minds. "The awakening has begun. The Empire falls." In the Haelor capital, chaos erupted as the artifact signal spread across the galaxy. The ancient power it had called responded, manifesting in the form of massive otherworldly ships that emerged from deep space. These ships were unlike anything anyone had seen before, vast, living constructs that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The Haelor fleet, already weakened, was no match for the invaders. One by one, their worlds fell. The empire that had ruled for centuries crumbled in mere days. On board the Resolute, Mara and her crew watched in stunned silence as the alien ship swept across the galaxy. The artifact's true purpose was now clear. It wasn't just a beacon. It was a harbinger. Humanity's new role. Mara stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy. The Haelor Empire was gone, but the alien ships showed no signs of stopping. They were moving toward the heart of human space. "We started this," she said quietly. "We unlocked the artifact, and now the galaxy is paying the price." Blake stepped forward. "What do we do, Captain? We can't fight them." Mara turned to her crew, her resolve unshaken. "We find a way. We've faced impossible odds before, and we've survived. This time, it's not just about humanity. It's about the galaxy. If we don't stop them, no one will." The crew nodded, their fear tempered by determination. They had survived the Haelors. Now they would face the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. And they would be resolute.